everyone. How you doing? Did you get enough coffee? It's great to see you and know that there are people in the overflow rooms. It's just a fabulous time when we all get together at this time of year. The first thing I want to do is mention the fact that we have some wonderful sponsors. I'd like to thank them for all the work that they've done, and the conference committee. Because the conference committee, these are the folks that put all of this together, and I've already getting compliments on how they're helping people across the entire process here. Yes. Then I'm pleased to say that we have some new institutions that I want to welcome. The University of Central Florida, College of the Florida Keys, Florida Southwestern State College, Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine. And I like to tell a couple quick stories. There was a hurricane going on in Florida, no, not unusual. And I contacted the gentleman who was over the accreditation process, Tim Letzering, and I said, I hope you all will be safe. And he says, we're working on our application until the power goes out. So just remember that loyalty, folks. At this moment, I have a very limited time where I can tell somebody on my staff what to do. So Eric, would you please come up to the stage? Eric Martin, Executive Vice President. Eric has the audacity to be retiring at the end of the month, and I think many of you know him, so I don't mean to embarrass you, but I'm going to. Eric was a liaison when I came to HLC, and at one point I could see that he was very talented, and he came up to me and he said, you know, I'd like to go to the Harvard Institute for Educational Management training. Would it be okay if I take the 2 weeks? I'll pay for it myself. And I said, well, wait a minute. You were an assistant provost, you've been a dean. I said, I got an idea. Would you go into administration here and we'll cover everything? And that's what happened, and he kept moving up. So first he was chief of staff, and then he became executive vice president, or for those of you who know the Godfather, my consigliere. And he's done a wonderful job. The board paid tribute to him last night. The staff will pay tribute to him tomorrow night. And then right now, I want to give you a few quotes that we got from people who know you. All right, and we'll get, I can't believe, no, I'll tell you the right one. These are the happy ones. Eric is a professional. As a peer reviewer, I worked closely with Eric for over 15 years. Eric's been with us for 16 years, so this person obviously the whole time practically. Hidden behind a suit and tie is a poised, knowledgeable, quiet exterior of a person with a great sense of humor and even a better laugh. He cares passionately about education and even deeper about the success of students. My best to Eric as he writes his retirement narrative. Just think, I remember, I can't believe this, when he was an adjunct faculty at Illinois Central College. Over the years, another person, though what stood out even more in his leadership, this is a clip from another part, is the kind of person he is, genuine, steady, and someone people naturally respect and enjoy being around. And that's very true. He's a very humble person. Eric, retirement feels like the perfect moment to say something, that this is from a member, that probably doesn't get said enough. You've been one of those rare friends where time and distance simply do not matter. We may not see each other often or talk as much as we probably would, but whenever we do, it's like no time passed at all. We just pick up where we left off, and that kind of friendship is a gift. It speaks to you, who you are, genuine, steady, easy to be around, and completely without pretense. Couple more. Our AQUIP team. How many of you remember AQUIP? Rest in peace. Our AQUIB team was more than just colleagues. We generally cared for and supported one another, forging friendships that endure to this day. Eric was our leader, and a leader he is. We celebrated birthdays, hosted a baby shower, and enjoyed countless team dinners at the Q Center. These gatherings, along with unforgettable ice cream treats, contributed to the strong sense of friendship within our group. As Eric writes this next chapter, I am confident that it will be extraordinary. I eagerly anticipate reading about his future accomplishments and celebrating them, ice cream and all. Finally, Eric is truly one of the good guys in higher education, and his impact on the HLC community will be felt for years to come. So I would like to give you an opportunity if you'd like to say anything.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I will just say that working for Barbara Gellman-Danley is never dull. You're always full of surprises, but you've always been just wonderful in giving the opportunities and able to really push forward and do things that I never imagined possible when I was first thinking about starting college and not sure I was ready for it. So very much appreciated, and thanks to all the staff, and just want to shout out to places that made this possible: Illinois State, University of Findlay, Governor State University. If you're all here, thank you. You were part of the journey, and as a wise man once said on a train bound for nowhere, you gotta know when to hold them, you gotta know when to fold them, you gotta know when to walk away, and I'm gonna run. So.
Now, what I'd like to say to Eric is, on behalf of everybody here, in the other rooms, and in higher education, Eric served many years in the Army. Thank you for your service. All right, now that I keep drinking water to choke down tears, I will say we're going to bring you up to date on the current state of higher education. First of all, the trends, and you have that in your packet. Strategic directions for the North Star Plan, history of higher ed, very briefly, because we got a really good overview last night. Many of you were there. And future focus. So with that, let's get to the trends. The trends are in a position in your packet that it has a list at the end that you can prioritize and use on campus, and a lot of people do that. By the way, how many of you are first-time attendees? Raise your hand. Well, welcome. Well, the first trend is interesting. Who's in charge of higher education? How many of you think you're still in charge of higher education? All right. Well, the public perception of higher education, as we know, changes dramatically over time. And unfortunately, it's the kind of thing that what folks think that we haven't done, they're doing it for us. Many things are going on, and this involves states, the federal government, etc. We have states that have become very engaged in higher education. They've been engaged in what goes on, everything from governance to the classroom. We have other states that are certainly engaged in accreditation. And then what we have is question about who's making the decisions. What you teach in a classroom, you're being given suggestions on, or more than suggestions, depending on where you live, about what should be in the curriculum, what's acceptable, and words you should not say, DEI. Ooh, I said it. And it's a kind of thing that it feels a little bit at times, I will say, like McCarthy hearings, but it is a changing environment, and the key thing is who is in charge of higher education. And just understand something. You could dial back 20 years, and there are things that we needed to do, and it's not just related to any party or any time. It's just heightened right now at the time. So The other trend that I want to talk about is a hot one, and it's one thing that both parties agree on: student outcomes. There's a lot more pressure on knowing exactly what happens to the students as far as learning. And it's very deepened as far as what everybody's expecting across the country. We used to just do graduation rates. We considered persistence formulaic, as you know, that over so many years you would have a degree, associate or bachelor's degree, and it was all computed as to how long that would take. Oh gosh, I remember my dissertation. Fortunately, I was before the 6-year limit, and I took 9 years. And how many of you have students that take more than the typical, not typical anymore, but 2 years or 4 years for a degree? You have a lot. It takes time. The idea of what completion is changes dramatically because, as we know, the federal data, there's some issues with that. So basically what's happening is an interest in outcomes. But if you put on your hat as a parent, now right now I have 2 grandkids in the audience, and I want to know wherever they go to college that they will get a good education, there will be an ability for them to get jobs, and very importantly that whatever their intent is, it's honored. It's not just imposed upon them. And we have regulations that make that happen, like claim a major or you can't get federal financial aid. But for student outcomes, I think all of you are getting better, and we're going to have to get better over time because much more is going to be expected of us. Well, then we have the reality of finances. Now, this is a trend that has many aspects to it. What is going on as far as each state and the funding for higher education? And I read the Chronicle of Higher Ed Inside Higher Ed every day, and there are articles about, it's held, and then there are articles about states are giving less. And even in states that have previously been extremely supportive of higher education, decisions have to be made. Some states where grants were withdrawn or likely will be withdrawn have filled in the gaps a little bit. In other places, states, no matter what they want to do, they can't. And then there are other folks across the country, and there includes elected officials who still want to know what the return on investment is. So you add that to the fact you have deferred maintenance, now you have athletics where you pay the athletes, and you have all kinds of other financial pressures on you. So the financial pressure thing is continuing. And I'm only going to mention the demographic cliff last, that there are less 18 to 22-year-olds. I will say to my other son who's here, he's having a 3rd child, so thank you for working on that on our behalf. Another trend, of course, and very central to everything that we do, is teaching and learning. The classroom, how many of you have taught more than 10 years? Okay. Did you think that we would be in the current situation as far as all the changes in teaching and learning? You might have predicted some. If you take distance learning alone, I grew up with it, okay? The first kind of distance learning was correspondence study. The second type was one-way video, two-way audio. And I remember that because when I was in Oklahoma, I taught one-way video and two-way audio, and it went to prisons. And only after class day, I found out that my oldest child had a stuffed animal, and I didn't want him to lose it. It was in my pocket the whole time. So, it's the kind of thing you don't get to see what you look like at Zoom. You can prep up before it happens. But there's all that evolution that's happened with distance learning, and now there's a magnificent amount, it's exponential, that's happening in the classroom. Part of what's happening in the classroom is what I previously mentioned, that other folks are weighing in on what should go on in the classroom. So under the circumstances, our faculty are at ground zero, and it's very important, and it's just going to keep being a challenge. Even last night, the speaker talked about tenure and unions and things like that. Some states are ending tenure. Other states are wanting to do post-review for tenure. And frankly, you could see both sides of it, except I would love to see the side where people who make, $10 million a year are saying faculty don't, they shouldn't have tenure. It's a big guarantee for you that you're giving your life to this career. And disappointingly, because I frequently speak of the difference between a job, a career, and a calling, there was an article in the press recently about some folks are so stressed that they now consider it a job versus a calling. And please, go back to the calling stage. It's so important what you're doing. Well, the next one is an extremely hot topic, and that is harnessing the strengths of artificial intelligence. Well, talk about reading the press. One day it says, this is great, it's going to take care of everything, and the next day it says, help us. You need human interference. And speaking with business people who may be a little more ahead of my knowledge, they were talking about the fact that in 5 years, just about 90% of the jobs can be done through AI. Now, I found a very interesting point in a seminar I attended with our CIO from Jobs for the Future, and we talked about artificial intelligence. And one of the speakers, might have been the person from McKinsey, I can't remember, made an excellent comment about AI will be able to do a lot of what is the first job. So how do folks who want to move up get experience? Can you remember in your own careers where someone said, well, you're not quite ready yet, you need experience? Well, how do you get ready if AI is doing that first job? So I thought that was worth sharing. So think about that when you go back to your campuses about what can you do to get ready for the first job. And as a communications major with speech and English, the liberal arts really matter when it comes to employment and over the course of a lifetime. So it's exciting to see what can be done, but it's not everything. So I want to talk about when it comes to the kinds of things that are going on about competition with finance, I don't want to forget this part. The competition is great now because there's more than just degrees being offered. And that leans into the whole work that's being done with us, with the Credential Lab, with your institutions, as far as short-term credentials. So I don't want to forget that point. So let's go back now and talk about the next trend. We'll have to forward a little bit and talk about strategic partnerships. Well, I would just say more than ever, strategic partnerships are needed. What is frustrating is when I read in the press that there are universities and colleges need to reach out more to their communities, as if it's not being done. When the community college movement was starting, and I was there in the nascent years, not Joliet Junior College in 1901, it's not, all right, shout out. But I'm talking more the 60s and the 70s, and we have the head of the League for Innovation, the community college in the audience, so he knows the history well. But when they were being formed, what did we say our middle name was in communities? Community colleges. Community. Community is our middle name. And I know that you all reach out to your communities, but more of that needs to happen. And also partnerships. Partnerships that could be with an external provider. Partnerships that might be where you're offering some courses and another institution is offering courses. So you establish that kind of relationship, which is really, really important. And have any of you, just raise your hand, started new partnerships that you think are productive for your institution? Yeah, plenty of you. And I just saw an esteemed physics professor raise his hand, and I know he's engaged in a lot of things nationally, maybe even internationally. And I think it's important to note that it's easier when you can work with others, but not have it forced upon you. So it's great to have advisory boards. We have a Credential Lab advisory board. We had a Partners for Transformation advisory board in 2016 that led us to the places we are today as far as innovation. We had great members on there, national leaders, and it was really exciting. So I think that we have to realize that there are opportunities to reach out and just continue to do that. And the one thing I want to say about strategic partnerships is they also can be with you from accreditation. We get a lot of great ideas from you. The reduced credit degree, The fact that we visited Arizona State and were blown away by what's going on with Dreamscape and their virtual reality. Anybody here from Arizona State? Okay, and you're a real person. You're not showing up as AI. So we went through this experience with the board. I have some very bribable pictures and videos. We went through the experience, and first of all, we put on headsets. And when we had the headsets on, we could see all kinds of things. And they did biology and chemistry. When they got to art, I was a little bit more able to understand what they were doing. But we went right down into the cavernous places of Egypt, and we saw hieroglyphics, etc. Well, in the early days of distance learning, they would give you videos to show you that versus just a book. And now you can actually go there, which is really cool. And for any of you who know Linnea Stenson, we have a very bribable picture of her going like this because everybody else was done. She's like, where am I? And we were supposed to, there was this bot coming toward us that looked like a bird, and we were supposed to follow the bot, and I spent about 10 minutes trying to kill the bot. So, you know, this is why I turned over one of those headsets to my grandson Dylan, because I didn't know how the heck to use it. But it's a really different changing time, and the partnerships that we discussed when we were at Arizona State are kinds of things that you're all doing, where they have partnerships with Steven Spielberg's company or George Lucas, I can't remember the specifics, but all kinds of really good partnerships where that kind of work is being done, and ultimately it's serving the most important stakeholders, students. And learners really can learn through this kind of environment as long as they have the human help. The human help to put the goggles on too. So the other thing I want to talk about is the global impact of what is going on right now with international students. It's really sad because international students bring so much to our campuses. They have the opportunity to make it a global campus where you learn more and more about the rest of the world. If you're just seeing yourself, it's really not a full higher education experience. Right now, there are rules imposed on institutions about international students. I have heard from presidents who are saying it's really hurting my campus because we have a lot of international students, and proposals that they would pay $100,000 for additional visas. We'll send them to other countries. So when we talk about competition, I think we also need to think about global competition. Some of the things that are happening in higher education may challenge us being the first in the world. Right now we are first in the world, but it's a little risky. And the international students need to feel welcome and included, and I hope this turns. And I hope you lobby to help make it turn. So let's talk about navigating change overall. All right, so we're going to talk about burnout. And I just want a little close-up, Mr. DeMille. It's on this. I don't know if you can get that on a camera, but instead of me, put this up. It's a small little stress ball, okay? And I do not want anyone to get hit, but I'm going to try to throw it. I'm going to throw it toward my family, my staff, or if you want to risk, I'll throw it over here or here. You want to risk? All right, let's see what kind of energy I have. All right, should I be a girl and do it this way or? All right, I made it to the second row. That's pretty good. We're going to talk about mental health, not mine, general stress. And there is a place that is the volunteer information desk. I hope I said that right. Out in the lobby with HLC volunteers, etc. And if you can find that, I only bought about 60 of these. But what I want you to do to get one if you want it, and any of you can just do the second part anyway, even if we run out, which is write down the name of your school and something that makes you feel really good about it. Really good, positive. And then I want to be able to use that. And if you want to be able to tell me more, just put your name and email on it. So, what do we do in times of stress? Well, the mental health issue continues. I've talked about this pretty much every year for the past few years. The stress of the students, the loneliness. One of the books I recommended this year, you have that on your flyer, very well done, about mental health. They're feeling lonely, they're feeling isolated, they're feeling the hangover from COVID. The fact that they may not be as college ready because the 2 years, I don't want to tell the stories of my kids or they're going to be embarrassed, but okay, I'll tell one. During COVID, my grandson, let's just say he wasn't really paying attention, so he moved into my son's office. And my son works for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And at one point I said, "Have you learned anything, Dylan?" He said, "A lot about compliance." But I'm not so sure he was paying attention to his own class. Son Harper, I'm sure you were perfect. But anyway, not. So you have those students coming into you, right? And they had that experience. And they lost those years, so there's a depression, there's a sense of isolation and the need to be with others, and it's just difficult for them. On top of it, you have faculty and staff that have stress because of some of the lovely things I just told you about, but also the fact that the job is intense, you've got more to do. For the presidents, it's the hardest time it's ever been to be a college president. I loved being a college president. But I don't think I would love if this statue is a statue that somebody doesn't like and another person likes. I'd have to figure out where to put the statue on my campus. Or I apologize to the universe in the 70s for my protest, but all the protests on campus are becoming very different than the protest of sometimes former years. The question is, when I say who owns higher education basically right now, is the biggest, greatest part of higher education is giving freedom of speech, giving students an opportunity to talk, giving faculty members an opportunity to express a variety of opinions. Not what we are accused of doing, one opinion. A lot of opinions get out there. And so it's a stressful time. And I think that I was telling the president yesterday, what are you going to do to take care of yourself and trustees? Because I heard from one of the leading governance organizations in the country that trustees are just as frustrated. They don't know how to deal with, some of the things that are coming at them. And even if there were no political influence, the complexity of higher education, of course, has gotten very complex. So I think that it's important for me to share a couple of things I told them. I told them that you need time for yourself. You need to take a mental health day if you're not feeling great, because if you're a leader, any of you are leaders or staff reporting to them, it's contagious. If you come in a great mood, it's contagious. If you feel kind of burnt out that day, it's contagious. And then I gave them the most, scholarly advice I could give, which was get a pet, because I personally, when I'm stressed, I lean on my cat, I feel the purr, and the dog's smiling all the time, and they don't judge you. But the stress is continuing. Now, talent management, let's talk about that. It's hard to keep replacing individuals. Like you take the example of Eric. I'm not replacing Eric. We have a different position, a senior VP. We've reorganized, but you can't always have people in the pipeline. And so as a result of that, it's harder and harder to get people to join higher education. But think of what you do in the classroom. You create the talent that has to be managed later on. And so you have this great opportunity, the way you educate students, to give them all the tools that they need to put them in the best position for hiring. So it's not just about higher education. It's about how you prepare these individuals to be hungry for the world, curious, talented, able to speak, able to make presentations, able to write. That's kind of a lost skill. As you know, if any of you have young children, they're not teaching cursive anymore, and they're not really going over like how you should print well. And I might sound like a fossil, but the point is, those are very valuable skills, because if you're writing something to someone and you can't read it, that's difficult. But more importantly, I would say on the communication part, I've met some enormously talented people, but they were missing the communication part or the social emotional intelligence. So all of that's really important. Now let's talk about change management in general. Last year I had this as the first trend. And even though I say the trends are not prioritized, you can count on the first trend as the one that hits the most. In this situation, change management is really important, and we're very proud that part of the work we did with the Credential Lab, the part that deals with the Innovation Center, we started off with change management. So if you have an institution where you have a lot of folks that are pro-change, just for change's sake, that's chaotic, but obviously willing to change, that can be good. At the times change is needed, but also you want a situation where you identify those that are resistant to change, because they may not be the best people to keep moving up in an organization, because you can hold on to your core values, but you've got to be flexible enough to move forward. So at this time, when everyone's telling us how we should change, I'm just encouraging you, any change that's needed, take it back and own it yourself. You don't need to have somebody from the outside tell you how to do that. And there are a lot of people doing that. One time I was principal for a day. Have any of you heard of that in your communities, where somebody signs on and is principal for a day? Well, it was a lot of fun. And of course, I made sure I picked a school that I could handle, but not a middle school. And I don't know about the rest of you, but anyone in a leadership role knows how to, there's many people who know how to do my job better than I do. And when I was at a faculty, I mean, they tell me that. So when I was a college president and folks would criticize this or that or whatever, I really wanted to say, you want to be principal for a day? You know, just take over it. But it's a difficult time. And I think change is very exciting, but not for just no reason. And I've told this story before. There's a president who came to me. His institution was pretty much failing, had a lot of challenges. And he said, I want to bounce some ideas off of you. And he gave me 7 ideas. 7 ideas. And I said, focus. Pick one. So you can't, you know, people have to sweep up after me, because I come up with a new idea every day. And Eric was like the brooms in Fantasia. I mean, he took care of, if any of you saw that. There were a lot of dancing brooms in Fantasia. But change is really important, but for the right purpose. So let's talk about all the crazy things going on now in accreditation. And remember, I started by telling you the new members coming to us, the largest university in Florida. Oh, and by the way, 11 of the 12 universities in Florida have started either the process with us or received reasonable cause approval. We've only had a couple institutions leave, and it was a better fit somewhere else. But right now, there's a lot going on. So I want to make sure I am very clear. We have a core business in accreditation, and that's quality assurance. No matter what else we're doing, it builds on the fact that it's about quality assurance. We started with quality assurance before there even was financial aid tied to it. But right now, accreditors are accused of a lot of things, like inputs versus outputs. We do not ask how many books you have in the library, but we probably still ask some things that you feel are arduous, and we need to move more toward outcomes. New accreditors will seek recognition. You may be familiar with the FIPSE grants, the Fund for Institutes Post-Secondary Education. I forget the I. Anybody remember the I? Improvement. Fund for Improvement of Post-Secondary Education. I should remember that because it started the League for Innovation, and I was at a league school once. These grants were given for new accreditors, and some are known as wanting to come out as new accreditors. Others were kind of like surprising, like a special accreditor for the military, et cetera. And some were given, and this is important, close to $1 million or $1 million to switch accreditors. So I just want to say, Tim, your school owes us a lot because it did not cost that much. So I don't know how that $1 million, you didn't get the grant, but it's not $1 million to be accredited. But these grants are being given out, and pretty liberally. I actually wanted to apply for one, and I wish I had, because it was like for new accreditors. I wanted to show how we were evolving. It just would have been interesting, right, to see how they would have responded. Oh, you can imagine. So pressure is growing now on programmatic accreditors, ABA, the law school, the business school accreditor, et cetera. I can't exactly say why. I can't get into the heads of other people, but it's also on us. So I'm going to tell you a story. we were told many times that to buckle your seatbelt. Buckle your seatbelt. And I thought, well, should I bring a seatbelt here and just drop it? Well, I'm not going to do that physically. We are not going to buckle our seatbelt. We're going to wait and see what happens. And then if we need to release the airbag will be the strength of HLC and all of you and your students. And just as a reminder, we never go out and solicit for new members. We won't do that. We don't think it sends the right message, but we are always welcoming for those who call us. So there's a concern within accreditation that it's too ideological on campuses and that we are ideological as well, and we shouldn't be biased. I don't think I need to comment on that. I think you all understand what the real stories are behind this. Or I might say ideological for what a group wants, but not ideological for what another group wants. It's still ideology. What we do at HLC is we have a really good relationship with our states and the triad. And what I love about this, I encourage any of you, if folks want to have help from us with the states or states want to have help with us, call us. We interact constantly. But our triad statement is very clear, and that is we will not battle with the states. We respect what each state is doing, and we will weigh in with advocacy as needed to help. The other thing that are happening is that there's a sense that on the boards of accrediting agencies, there should be a lot more public members and less from higher education. Now, we have fabulous public members, fabulous. Some in the loop to even become leaders of the accreditation. And we love that, but our higher education representatives are really important as well. And this will be the moment I'll say, and our peer reviewers, 1,450 of our peer reviewers are really important. And please keep signing up for peer review. It's very helpful. So there's a lot going on with this. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want you to take a look at the next slide where I want you to prioritize your trends. So take out your phones. Oh, I'm glad to see some didn't have them out already. Scan the code and give us your priorities. Some of you might have done this in advance. I don't recall if we offered that opportunity, but. Did anybody ever see Dear Evan Hansen? I feel like this is like the text. They keep coming. I'm really glad we're doing this. We want to hear from you because the next thing I'm going to talk about is our strategic directions. And they started with listening to all of you. Okay, so I'm going to let it keep rolling because it's like extreme fun to watch that. And just point out that the highest one at this point, 230. Let me see, which trend is that? Student success. All right. We picked the most important trend as the one that has the most important word in it. That's awesome. We have that one keeps going up. All right, like don't vote because I told you that was cool. Vote your own way. 300, what's the light blue one? 420, teaching and learning. Okay, like you guys got this. So you can keep filling it out, and we're going to move on with my presentation, but we want you to fill it out so that we have the opportunity to report out. Now, one of the things that I do with the trends is I recommend books that you can read, and I think that you'll find that this is, really important to take a look at some of them. What I do is I read every line on day, the Chronicle, Inside Higher Ed, et cetera, but some really cool books have been written this year, and I made a couple recommendations, as did others. So we want you to stay informed, and we want to tell you now about our strategic plan, North Star. North Star, and this is the Northern Lights behind us in case you missed it, when we were trying to figure out what to do with all the side things other than the main one, our Vice President of Communications was traveling to see the Northern Lights. So we said, okay, well, she's seeing them, we want to see them too. And this represents the idea of looking to the stars. So North Star, the first goal is it's a new era for higher education. And after getting a lot of information from you, listening sessions, there are more listening sessions as we flesh this out, the board came up with priorities that happen to align with the initials North Star. So the first one is a new era for higher education. And the fact that this board really wants to focus on the future, what's going on, how do we adapt with agility, it's really important. And mirror the dynamic nuances that are, skills that are needed in higher education and skills that are needed beyond. So then they went to looking at outcomes, and the good thing they did, right, board, because we should put the letters out of order. That's what everybody put first. Outcomes with transparency, the fact that students, parents, the public have a right to know if your students are learning. And what will that mean? Will they get jobs? Will the jobs be, there's legislation being proposed that, not legislation, regulations, that you have to show that after a certain time, this is with for the short-term credentials, that they earn a certain amount more than what it costs for them to get student loans. So if it starts with a short credential, it'll go to all of those things. And that's pretty hard to prove. Just as the outcomes that we're going to be asked to ask you, programmatic outcomes. I don't know that all of you have programmatic outcomes. I don't know that you all have the data systems to do that, and this is something that we'll all be dealing with. After that, it's return on investment. This return on investment is really important. And this I've talked about already. We want to continue to look at the return on investment. And then teaching and learning. And remember, in this case, I just want to say these are by the letters. They're not in order of priority. Teaching and learning is the core of what we do in higher education, and we want to be able to support innovation. So if there are things that you are doing and you say, this doesn't quite fit, will I get in trouble with HLC? Why don't you call us early on and we'll walk through the journey together. I think that would be important. And then we're taking a look at higher education in the age of AI, as I've mentioned. We're taking a look at what we can do. We have a fabulous leader, John Davenport, as our CIO, and he's leading a group of people across higher ed as well about what we should do with AI, how it's helpful, how we can get information to you more quickly. AI is changing so much all the time that it's the kind of thing that we just don't really, we can't even imagine what it could do. We have to be safe. We have to make sure that we don't put a bot out that tells you criterion 1A is X, and then you do that, and we say, well, that's not really it, but AI told you. So we're working on that. And then we have student-focused accreditation. That's who we are. That's in our mission, that we will always be thinking of students first. And then the next one we have is thought leadership. We do get a lot of feedback from our members that you want us to be national thought leaders, not just about accreditation, but about higher education in general, or to use the term I frequently do from Hamilton, you want us to be in the room where it happens. And so under those circumstances, the board is saying we will be a major national leader. That will be part of our plan and our intent. And then the one after that it's a hot one, advocacy. Advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. Where do we need to be when something's being decided that will impact all of you, and how will you tell us what that is? We need to hear from you. We're not on the campuses. We don't work for the states. We need to hear from you, and I say this particularly to presidents in here. Give us a call. Let us know if something's going on, because that way we are able to help you and work with you. And if you have problems with us, advocate to us. That's okay. We want to hear from you. After that, we have reaching to the future. And in reaching to the future, we mean that like the unknown future. What are the kinds of things that we can do that we can see across the entire spectrum of higher education and what that means for us? The past predicts the future. History tells our story. That's another Hamilton thing, but Roosevelt, on a little higher level, he said, the more you know about the past, the better you are prepared for the future. So I want to go over a very brief chronological timeline of American higher education, because last night we really got a good presentation about that. I don't want to overextend. And I got this off AI. I believe it's accurate, but I'm going to be, not like the videos, you know, where you see people hugging wild animals and you think, I don't really think that happened, or there's, sometimes people will confess, you know, and say it's AI, and I say, oh, I was so heartwarmed, and now you're telling me it's fake. But this is from AI. First, the colonial college period. This was a period of the elites where Princeton and other institutions were set up, mostly male colleges and students, et cetera. Well, male students. And then after the colonial college era, we moved on to mass higher education. And that's when the Morrill Act, there were two that passed over time. Public universities were set up, and there was like an exponential growth going on in higher education. This is also the time period that community colleges started. I was very offended at AI that they didn't point that out specifically, because that was a critically important time for access, different ways that people can earn a college degree. And then after that, you got into the digital era, and that goes till now. So, you know, what does that really say for us? All of these kinds of things about the past. We have to know it so we can move forward. And I just want to show you the item that is, you have it in your packet. You will see a lot of books. Okay, now on this I want to point that historically, these two books are very good. The Great Upheaval by Arthur Levine, The Fifth Way by Michael Crow, totally different perspectives on the history of higher ed. So I wonder how, I'm thinking like, how can I predict the future? Well, I have an idea. I'll show you. Any of you remember the old way that we would predict the future? Whoops. And there goes, that's a bottle of water. They're not predicting it. Okay, let's go to the slide that shows exactly what the future looks like. Okay. Oh my goodness, I bought one. So I took one trend item, and I'm not faking it, so I'm putting it this way. And I said, I want to know if this is true, because I'm the only one I've heard say this, and I bet other people think it. As long as we are a divided country in red states and blue states, I believe in the future there will be transfer problems as a result of that. And when I brought that up to other people, they agreed. Because what I think is, if we remain that divided, and you're in a red state, and you are going to now take classes from California, will there be a time when that matters? All right, you heard me. What's the answer? Whoa, no doubt about it. Aren't I smart? So right now I want to talk about how will you embrace the future? How will you be resilient? How will you take a look at the kinds of things that you need to do? And some of you know Mahatma Gandhi. Well, you don't know him personally. That probably was impossible. But I want to show you a quote. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from indomitable will. How can we look to the past to build those strengths for the future? So in embracing the future, I think of a poem that I was told I had to memorize in middle school. And it's a poem about resilience. It's just an amazing poem, and I wonder if any of you can guess what the poem was. Anybody have to memorize poems in middle school? Well, damn, you guys got off easy. I was in New York State at the time. So let me point out, the poem is Invictus. And I would give anything if I could talk to William Ernest Henley about what he really meant and where that came from.
Thank you to the Commission for this invitation. It is a profound honor to address you all today. Invictus was born in the shadows of the infirmary during a long and grueling battle with disease. As I adapted to my new sense of self, I realized that whatever we face, and no matter how difficult, it is how we respond, the resilience demonstrated through our actions, that defines us. In those years of trial, I had to find a strength within that the world could not touch. Resilience was a necessity. Today, I see your institutions facing their own fell clutch of circumstance, a landscape shifting beneath your feet. You must find new paths to reach those who seek knowledge. Artificial intelligence looms like a new shade, yet it is but a tool. Mastery lies in turning its shadow into a beacon of fluency. Even your systems of quality and oversight are in flux, demanding a data-driven soul that remains true to its core purpose. For you, the unconquerable soul is the commitment to truth and the mastery of your own educational fate. And now, I ask Barbara Gellman-Danley to read the words that have sustained me. May they serve as your beacon.
I think I have to say yes. There are 4 stanzas. I would encourage you to join me to read the last one so that you can leave here knowing about your own resilience. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, oh, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Thank you.